Hey everyone, BrickLoot here today with another episode of Ask Brick. So Ask Brick is my Q&A show here on YouTube where of course you ask me the questions and I answer them here on video. In last week's episode I actually revealed something on my channel that I had never talked about before, and it was actually that I used to work at one of my local Lego stores. I worked there last year. It was a really great time and it's just not something that I talked about here on my channel. But I decided enough time has passed since I left the position and I really just wanted to talk about it because I know a lot of you might have questions about what it's like working at the Lego store, some of the benefits, some of the perks, things like that, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of share that with you. So I put the call out to ask if anybody had any questions about my time working at the Lego store, and I got lots of great questions, so this is definitely going to be a two-part episode. So this is going to be part one here. This is really going to focus on the operations of the store and what it was like working there, and then in part two I would start talking a lot about the benefits and some more behind the scenes of the store. So I've got lots of great questions here, so stay tuned. So the first question is from CJ Bricks. How long did you work there for? That's a great question, and I should start by saying that. So I worked there from April 1st, 2019 till around late September or early October 2019. So it was just over a couple months. I had a really great time when I was there. I worked at a brick specialist at my location. I only ever worked at a brick specialist. I was hired as a temporary one and then brought on full time. I left on my own accord, like I didn't get fired or anything. It was a really tough decision to leave because I did want to stay. I did really enjoy my time at the store, but things in my own personal life were getting in the way. My YouTube channel was suffering because of it, so I decided that it was the right time to leave. I'm still really great friends with a lot of the people that work at the Lego store. They were really great coworkers, really awesome people. But yeah, so I did leave on my own accord. I only worked there for a few months, not even a full year, but it was a really great time. The next question is from Scouts Bricks. Did any customers recognize you from YouTube? So yeah, I actually had this happen several times. Not even just once or twice, but several times. There was times where a customer would walk by and be like, I saw you from the window, and I had to come say hi, I recognize you from YouTube. I had times where I spent over an hour with one AFOL who was packing pick-a-bricks. I was getting him parts and stuff like that from the wall. He never mentioned anything until I was ringing him through on the cash, and he was like, thanks, BrickLoot, and then turned and walked away. Like, he didn't even give me a chance to kind of react. Like, I had no idea he knew who I was. Multiple other times, I had a kid one time. I had several kids actually sometimes come up and be like, Are you on YouTube? Are you so-and-so? And I'd be like, yeah, that's me. I've taken pictures before in the Lego store, which is something that I've never really, I've never done that just on the street or anything like that, which is kind of interesting. And again, more times I had other AFOLs, other kids just, hey, you sound familiar. Hey, you look familiar. And I never talked about my YouTube channel when I was at the Lego store. That was my big thing. I didn't really talk about it with my bosses. They knew I had it. Everybody knew it was a thing, but I didn't bring it up unless somebody else brought it up first. So if a customer came in and was like, hey, and they were talking, I'd never be like, oh yeah, I run a YouTube channel. But if they said, hey, I watch your YouTube, I would acknowledge it and I would talk about it with them. But no, it actually did happen quite a bit. Way more than I thought it would. My manager thought it was the funniest thing because I was afraid at first that they might not like that, but they actually really liked it. And I remember one shift in particular, one of the members from the leadership team and one of the other associates were kind of making fun of me one day in a really joking way because we all got along about the YouTube channel, and they're like, we want a picture with you. And if not later that night, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, came up to me and was like, I watch you on YouTube. And she took a picture and stuff. It was really nice. And my coworker was like, why did you just take a picture with her? And I was like, oh, it's because she recognized me from YouTube. And my coworker's like, shut up. I'm like, that's not true. I was like, no, I swear to God. And then she went and got the manager, and they fully asked the girl. They're like, did you really know him from YouTube? It was just, that was one of my more funnier times that it happened. But it honestly did happen quite a bit. Way more than I thought it would. I didn't think I was a big enough YouTuber with enough fan base, especially in the Toronto area. So it was really cool when every few shifts somebody would be like, hey, I recognize you. I've been recognized in public before, for sure, but the Lego store, I guess it really makes sense, and that was when it happened the most. A user on Instagram asked, is it really an interesting job? How much do you know about the sets before they release? So to answer the first part of your question, yes, it really was an interesting job. I really enjoyed my time at the Lego store because it was a lot of fun and you get to work with Lego all day, so what's not to love? And as for the second part of the question, how much did you know about sets before they released? It honestly really depends on the set. Some sets we fully knew about before they released. For example, the Stranger Things set was one of the biggest ones. We knew it was coming out because we got the actual physical box weeks and weeks before they announced it online. I remember this is one of my favorite moments. I got to build the Stranger Things set way before it was released to the public, because the day that it was being released, we had to have the set ready to go and put on the floor because it was being sold the next day. So I got to spend a couple shifts in the back room solely building the Stranger Things set before it was released. And let me tell you, knowing such a big set is coming out and physically holding it in your hand and getting to build it before most of the rest of the world was a really cool experience, and it's something I really wish I could have shared here on my YouTube channel. Like, that would have been incredible, but obviously I kept my I kept my Lego life and my YouTube life really separate for a reason. But I remember that was one of the biggest sets we kind of knew about that was coming out. And then every once in a while we'd get like pictures of new sets that were coming out before they were announced to the public, but we were under strict orders. We could not, absolutely not talk about sets that we learned from the Lego's internal emails and stuff like that before it was announced to the public. So I had to really step back on what I was posting on my own personal YouTube channel because I didn't want it to conflict with my employment with the Lego group and what I was covering on YouTube. But it was definitely really hard knowing some of these really cool sets are going to be coming out and not being able to share them with the world or even comment on the rumors or anything like that. Because I know the day Stranger Things came out, we had tons and tons of calls, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Lego hasn't released anything publicly yet, as I'm sitting back there building the set, because when everybody else is on the floor busy, I was of course the one answering the phone. But that was a really good time, and yeah, so occasionally we did get to know about sets that released before the public, but then other times we had no idea and we'd find out the exact same time as everybody else. Another Instagram user kind of asked, did you get a sneak peek of upcoming sets or themes? Yeah, they did. I actually got a sneak peek of a theme that's going to come out. I don't know when it's going to come out. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I cannot talk about it at all on this YouTube channel. But they did do a trial run here at our store one time with other guests as well. We all had to sign the same non-disclosure agreement. But as soon as that comes out, I'll be really excited to see how that goes from the stage when I saw it last summer. But that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get sued. Chloe Galley asked, what's your most expensive set you've seen someone buy? So I would guess the most expensive sets would be the Millennium Falcon and the Star Destroyer. Believe it or not, we actually sold those all the time. The biggest, that was I would say the most expensive item that we always sold a lot of the time with cash. It was very often that somebody would come in with their $1,000 and $80 cash and just drop it and be like, I'm buying this set, because it's a pretty big power move to walk in and buy something that big. With cash. And I imagine, like, when you're buying something that big, you're not just window shopping or you see it, you know you're gonna buy it, so you save up your cash, and it was a cool thing. But that's definitely the most expensive set I've ever seen been sold, and I've sold them myself, because those are of course the biggest and most expensive Lego sets you can buy. Barry Francis asked Brick, when I have been in a Lego store buying collectible minifigures, the employees have helped me feel the packets to find the minifigure I wanted. When you worked at the Lego store, were you given training to be able to feel the packs, or was it just a skill that individual employees picked up themselves? That's a really great question. So when we got a new box of series minifigures, we had to go through and feel them to figure out, we had to get one full complete series to open up and build and put on our shelves in the store. We had to be very careful when we were feeling these, because obviously we didn't want to open more minifigures than we were going to put on the display, because that's a big waste. We can't sell them obviously once they're open. So we did that, and naturally we just got kind of good at feeling the minifigures. So yeah, we often, when a customer, we called them guests at the Lego store, but when a guest would come in and look for a minifigure, we'd feel it for them, but we didn't get any training on it. It was honestly just trial and error. We had the sheets just like you would have the sheet to kind of feel for the right accessories. Some employees are better at it than others. More of the full-time staff that was there the most often obviously got to know it a little better, versus some of the teenagers who weren't really into Lego. They didn't know it, I guess, as much. Towards the end of my employment there, we really started labeling all of the figures individually, because that was important, because we were spending so much time every shift feeling the figure. I'd feel a box for somebody, and then an hour later somebody else would come in and want me to feel the same box for them for a different figure. So that was just, it was a big waste of time, especially feeling the box like 5 or 6 different times a shift. That really adds up. So we started feeling the box once, labeling the minifigure, so that way we didn't continue to do it too much on our shift. We didn't like to label the figures, or I personally didn't love it, because that obviously, as a business person, that takes away sales when you know exactly what you're buying in a blind bag. But it made it better for the customer and for our own staff, because we weren't spending so long feeling the minifigures up. Pizza Gaming asked Brick, did you have any angry customers? So yeah, just like any store, we definitely had some angrier customers. I've been yelled at before. I'm not going to comment on any specific customers or any specific stories, just because I worked there like almost a year ago now, but still very relevant, and a lot of my current employees and like managers are still working there, so I don't want to expose any stories that I'm not supposed to. But yeah, we definitely did have some angry customers. And to put into some context, without giving any specific stories, I worked at the Lego store when they revamped the VIP program. So you can just imagine how happy people were going to the Lego store when their VIP program was revamped. They didn't know about it. They couldn't redeem their points. They lost some points. Things were a mess. That happened when I was working at the Lego store, so keep that in mind. But yeah, it's just like any retail spot. The Lego store it's a great place to work, but it is a retail job. Like at the end of the day, you got to remember that. So we did have happy customers, we did have angry customers, we had sad, like we got the full mix. And maybe in the future someday I'll tell a couple of my funnier stories about angry customers, because honestly we had some dandies. The next question is very similar to that answer, honestly. House of Bricks asked, what was the weirdest experience with a customer you had? I can't talk about this experience because I know that customer definitely still goes to our local Lego store. I don't know if they'd ever see this video, so I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or talk about it, especially because it was so fresh, less than a year ago. They were a regular in the store, but that's all I'm going to say. I wouldn't out anybody out like that, but again, maybe in a few years I'll be able to share this story, because this specific story, it's a good one, and it's got an interesting story to go along with it that I can't tell with the current person still at the Lego store, because I don't want to get them in trouble. But it's a good story, so remind me in like 2 years to tell the story. I definitely will. Honestly, working at the Lego store was a fun time, and as many times as you had a weird or a bad customer, more often than not, you had people who would literally come in and make your day. They'd be so nice, they'd be so thankful, they'd be so kind to you, like... Of course, it's retail. There's a couple bad ones, but for the most part, I found at the Lego store, there were some really rewarding ones, especially when the kids come in, because they're so innocent and like so cute, and all they want to do is grab your hand and like trail you around the Lego store and tell you all about the Lego sets. And I love that because I was able to interact with them. Those kind of customers fully outweigh. I could tell you way more stories about good customers than bad customers, and I'm so thankful for that experience. But again, I'm not gonna, because of privacy and things like that. Happy Bricks Lego asked, what were the working conditions? Honestly, I tell people this all the time. Working at the Lego store was the best job I've ever had in my student experience. It was my last student job, I guess you could say, before I started in the more professional workforce. And out of working at a coffee shop and a movie theater, the managers at the Lego store treated us far better than anybody else at any of these locations. They truly cared about you, and they made the work experience really enjoyable by doing extracurricular things for the staff, making it really feel like a family, and the benefits were really good. The policies and procedures at my store were followed to a T, which was really great because everybody was treated fairly and equitably, and it wasn't like managers didn't pick and choose what policies they were going to enforce with certain employees. Everybody was treated the exact same, and I never had any complaints working at the Lego store. Plus, they were really wanting to help you grow, so anytime that they saw something they didn't like, instead of being like, hey, you messed up, don't do it like this, they'd be like, okay, teaching moment, or hey, feedback moment, which I thought was really good. And like even the managers there, like when they knew how much I enjoyed working at the Lego store, they were more than happy to tell me or kind of help me understand more of what their roles were without actually me doing their roles, to kind of give me the idea of, hey, maybe is a manager at a Lego store something that I want to pursue? Do I want to be a supervisor? Anything like that. It was a really great work environment. Everything was very, very well. Great practices, great policies and things like that. And as I said, by far the best experience I've had working as a student in any kind of retail experience. By far. Bricks asked, did you ever witness someone dropping a Pick-a-Brick cup or making a mess at the Pick-a-Brick wall? Yeah, actually all the time. I don't know if I recall somebody like taking a full cup and just dropping it by mistake, but there was definitely times where the Pick-a-Brick wall got quite messy, or there were times where a kid would, take all the Pick-a-Brick parts off the wall, build something, and then run out of the store and just leave. He didn't steal, but they would like leave the parts there. It's just one of those things. We had to make sure, like on a Saturday and Sunday, we were constantly sweeping the floor to get the Lego, to get rid of the Lego that was on the floor so nobody stepped on it, hurt themselves, ruined the Lego, stuff like that. But no, there was definitely lots of messes, but I don't really recall. There definitely was a time where somebody dropped like a Pick-a-Brick cup, but I can't remember like a specific story. I used to drop things all the time. I've dropped models, I've dropped sets, like it happens. One of our own employees dropped a whole box of Lego one time. It went everywhere. Like that kind of stuff happens. It's just part of the job, and when it happens, you just with a smile on your face, run to the back room, get the broom, and help them fill a new cup up. Like, you don't get mad because they didn't, unless they intentionally took the cup and like spilled it out, which I never had happen. There's no use getting upset about something like that. And the last question I'll answer in this week's episode, I still actually have so many more questions to answer. And if you have any more questions about the Lego store, leave them down in the comments below. But the last question for this week's episode is from Scouts Bricks. Were there any incidents where you caught people stealing? Yeah, there was actually just one time where I specifically witnessed somebody steal or attempt to steal. I don't know if I can share this story, so I apologize if this it's not supposed to be shared. But one time I was working, I got a call from mall security. They described an individual, and they say this person has come into your store. Please watch them. I'm like, okay, yep, they're in the store. And they're like, yeah, we know, we have a sting operation. We're trying to catch them shoplifting. And sure enough, there was multiple security guards and multiple undercover security guards kind of watching. And my job was to make sure that they wanted to catch him to steal. They were trying to get him in the act. I passed that along with our actual employees working that day. He didn't steal anything. We didn't set him up we didn't try and entrap him or anything like that. There definitely was some theft at the Lego store, but not nearly as much as you might think. Like, it was very, very minimal. Alright, so thanks everybody so much for watching this super long episode of Ask Brick. I'm sorry this one went a lot longer than I typically go, but there were just so many great questions here and so many great stories. If I said anything in this video that you want me to elaborate on a little more, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to. The next week's episode is going to be a lot about the benefits and talking about the different things at the Lego store that were beneficial to employees, which I also can't wait to talk about. But please let me know if you have any future questions for the Lego store. I will definitely make a part 3 of this video sometime. So thanks everybody so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for next week's part number 2, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. See ya!